All right. So then get your hand on that remote. Get ready to press play. We'll press play together on three. So 1, 2, 3. Shoot. I have to do it in Marcus.
This is Mal.
This is Matt.
Does anybody here on the couch know of the video game Mass Effect?
Yes.
Firefly, for whatever reason, really reminds me of it. I know that Mass Effect's a little bit more military sci-fi, and this a little bit more Western sci-fi, but there's something about the
Ready,
universe
Mary?
that reminds me.
I haven't played that one.
Well, we're definitely going to get a little bit fallout from this episode, it seems.
Yeah, is this the first time we've had a recap after the
Yep.
Yeah,
intro?
I think so.
There might have been a long break between this episode and the previous one when they aired it.
So there's a recap. Are you guys seeing Simon?
Nope, we're seeing
Right now, Crow.
previously on.
He just kicked the
Oh,
guy into
okay. I'm
the.
going to pause again.
Crow. Yeah, we'll tell you when it starts back. Right now, it's
Now we
starting back up.
It's
started.
starting.
Perfect.
It's book talking about Shen Yu.
Cape Cod?
Yeah, my guess is you're watching from DVDs, Mary, and they didn't have recaps on the DVDs.
Recap. I'm like, wait, another?
With little curly cues on.
Dick Dastardly.
Handlebars.
Look who's back.
I think he's the most sadistic and best of the villains.
Who's got that guy strung up?
Who knows? Somebody who crossed Niska?
Got it.
Is it a requirement to have little tiny
Yeah, this is the
glasses
guy
if
who
you're...
this is the guy who Malcolm hit one of his men into the engine, right?
Yes.
Yes. I really do believe
Oh,
villains
ho,
have to have
ho,
little
ho.
tiny glasses to make
Okay,
them look
what
more
was up
evil.
with that? Well,
You mean gutting him like that?
no, the fact that like both of them kind of are talking about Shen Yu. Also, Book had some kind of a little kind of dastardly sound to the way that he was talking about that. Did I was I not picking up on that
I
correctly?
don't know
Yeah,
what you were picking up on.
I picked up on that. It almost sounded like he was going to suggest the next heist or something.
Right?
We've always wondered what Book's backstory really is.
When can I read the comic, Sherry? After the
After the
series, or I have to
movie,
wait after the movie?
you could watch. I'll let you watch it on Saturday, but I would actually think you should wait until Sunday.
Mm, to read it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines from the entire series. That's the other one.
Well, she seems to have normalized. So
A little bit.
whatever they're giving her is working.
Looks like Bob might be his prediction might have been correct.
River's thinking about hiding a grenade in one of them apples now.
My question is, how does cutting the fruit avoid there being a grenade?
It won't hit them in the head.
Yeah, it might
If
cut
it
off a
blows
hand, but
anything
it
off, it
won't.
might blow off their arm instead of going down their gullet and exploding. More of a chance to survive it. All the planets in space flushed into my butt.
Man, it takes a long time to curse in Chinese.
He's actually taller than she is, but she's wearing heels and he's shrinking himself down. Little sister.
Just what every brother wants to hear.
Yep, definitely my sister.
Book jumps up.
Everybody's interested in seeing. I love Jane's
Oh
reaction.
goodness.
Ubby and Mouse.
Wash.
War stories.
Interesting.
I love that line from Mel. I'm lost, I'm angry, and I'm arguing.
Not of self-indulgent lunacy.
What's funny is that in this show they curse, but they have so many different cursing, whereas we in English have just like three of them that we basically, and most people just only use one.
I
It
mean,
seems
but
like
you have things
every
like,
single time somebody curses, you translate something completely new.
yeah, like all the planets in space flushed into my butt. I mean, very poetic.
Shari, how's her massaging technique?
She's doing it all wrong, actually. She's using her thumbs instead of her body weight.
What who is that? Is that an actress that we should know?
That's her client, the counselor.
No, no, I mean the actress. Like, do we know her from something else? She looks familiar.
I'll tell you in a second. Cow dung.
Why is the light like why is the light moving? Are they already in the atmosphere or are they
Yes.
flying through space? Oh, okay, they're already in the atmosphere.
Yeah. And her name is Catherine Kendall.
Well, it doesn't look like you were totally right, Bob, but you did question the fact that we didn't get, or somebody didn't question that we didn't get much wash, and it looks like that's, what we're getting to a degree, but we're not really getting a backstory.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Jane.
Oh, I have a feeling that Shep has some skills. I wonder if Shepard can do some cartwheels.
I mean, look at those arms.
That shirt's extra tight today. I'm seeing a lot of
Well, he
toe.
was just, pumping some iron.
I noticed the guys were working out.
He was struggling though.
Well, Jane was leaving him alone. Very bad spotter.
Yeah, but then he lifted it like it was like a piece of string.
He knows his gun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced that Book is somebody who worked for the Alliance. Like he was like maybe some sort of like an assassin, or some kind of badass. And he like became disillusioned by it, and he turned to God. That's my prediction,
Sounds
or something
interesting.
like it. And those guys look like right out of Desert Shield. I mean, this came out around the time that the Gulf War was going on. Those guys just look like just completely inspired by it.
Him trying to be Zoe.
Yeah, impossible.
He's not very good at it, is
Ooh,
Whoa. Whoa. That was cold. Uh-oh.
mother humping son of a bitch.
Whoops. That guy, what's that guy's name again? Like Hoffa or
Niska.
Niska.
Miska?
Adelaide Niska.
By the way, after this episode, only 4 more episodes, and still we haven't seen what a real Reaver looks like.
True.
maybe we don't want to see what a real Reaver looks.
True.
I do.
I love they're still having this conversation while they're being tortured. That's how angry
Like, what is the guy torturing them thinking at this point?
Who knows?
This is so fantastic, this scene.
Get in line.
It drives me crazy that they have all this technology, but they have no like communicators.
Yeah, I mean, no,
They do have.
nothing like a cell phone.
No, but they do have. They've used earpieces before. It probably just doesn't work from ship to ship.
Yeah, I know, but it just with the amount that with how big phones are in our current world, it's just funny that science fiction typically doesn't have it,
This
doesn't include it
Well,
right
at
well,
all.
here,
Star Trek does, that's for
this
sure.
reminds me of Star
Yeah, kind
Wars, where when when Luke loses his hand, it's kind of like that kind of a look down into the corridor, like.
I think it's the same theory for like horror movies. If you can communicate in any way you want, it doesn't drive the plot in the same way.
Yeah, it just means that that they have to reinvent the narrative to accommodate.
So long being rich.
Doesn't even let him
Whoa,
ask the question.
that
I
was
love it.
awesome.
He's her husband. Nathan is actually deaf in that ear.
So it's useless anyway.
What did
It's
they
fine.
cut off?
His
His
ear.
ear or
Yeah.
the whole ear?
Yeah.
And that kind of feels like Han Solo going into carbonite.
Doesn't it though? You go wash.
Oh yeah. I have a feeling that they're going to put that back on.
Filthy fornicators of livestock, and that's coming from Shep.
There you go, John.
I
That
think I'm gonna
device
start
is
praying.
called the torture spider.
Damn.
I think Mal's gonna start praying, and then that's what we're gonna see.
Interesting.
Watch with this teeny tiny little gun.
It's like Rambo.
Vera's going back out on the tank.
Oh,
My
whoa, he's dead.
my boy's dead.
No, they'll just keep waking him up. And
Kind of reminds me of the Princess Bride. He's just mostly dead.
Mostly dead.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I've always wondered how people get the job of torturer. Like, is there an application process? Do you have to beat out other torturers?
I always wonder who signs up for that, knowing that in almost every iteration, the henchmen always die.
Right?
Like I've never seen a movie where at least one of the henchmen hasn't died. Why would you want to be a henchman?
Yeah,
It's
Hunter, I
like
think you just
it's
have to
like
have some
being a
really
red shirt.
cool black leather.
It's like
And
being a red shirt in Star Trek. You don't want that
Exactly. Well,
position.
they die
well,
first,
the
but
main reason is because it's a movie. It's not real, and actual henchmen did not always die. But if you're asking why the actor is playing the henchman, even though he knows he's going to die, it's because the actor needs work.
No, work
No,
sometimes.
I don't think about it or the actors. I'm thinking about the real people.
they want to make their way up the totem pole.
If you're a good henchman, you get to work your way up to getting coffee.
Take a look at that computer keyboard.
They blew up the mule. Kneecaps.
Yeah, it's not his fault if they smack their head when they go down.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
These guys in black must have been reject stormtroopers. They can't shoot.
Poor Kaylee. Can't
Oh
Here you
let
go,
no.
the
John.
Oh,
Here
Here
oh,
you
come the
go.
oh, oh,
backflips.
oh. What's gonna happen now?
can't look.
She
Oh
said, "Don't look."
yes. All we needed was a cartwheel.
Did that count, John, or not really?
Oh, it's I mean,
No
yeah.
power in
That
the verse can stop her.
yeah. I mean, we've got a cartwheel coming up. I'm feeling more confident than ever that my theory of what she is going to come is going to be accurate. She's a weapon. Oh, that's some serious Star Wars right there.
Yeah, that's what I said before. It's totally like when Luke lost his hair.
Oh, to me it looks like the part when in Jedi when the Emperor is thrown down into
Yes.
the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Luke loses his hand
He says,
in
"Oh no, it's not."
Yeah, she says it's something that the
Empire.
captain needs to do himself. Haven't you killed me enough for one day?
Yeah, that was actually a little bit more like Bespin. When Luke falls down.
Absolutely. And he's split in half.
What happened to the old guy? Did he get killed?
He ran away.
Shit. Okay, excuse my language.
Yeah, he'll be back in the movie, I'm sure. I have this sinking feeling that we're gonna have to wait till the movie to get any real Reavers.
Look, his ear is back on. They fixed it.
They really did a good job fixing that ear.
Well, he's a good doctor.
The counselor gave them a machine
I mean, really,
to
like not
speak.
just a good doctor, also like clearly a good plastic surgeon as well.
No, they borrowed a machine from the counselor. That's why he just said to say thank you, because that was what they used to glue it back.
Whoa,
Think
creepy.
she's a little scared?
That was weird.
See, Steph, we told you there was food in the episode. Eating and stuff.
Oh, great. Great episode.
There we go.
And where does it
So,
fit in your favorite line?
what's up?
Where does it fit in your favorites line?
Oh, um, I think it's pretty high. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's definitely up.
it was an action packed episode, so it was a fun episode.
And River did something cool.
Yeah, Rivers is on her way to me winning a ton of kernels from Mary. So super exciting, really exciting.
Wait, I'm sorry, what? What happened? Where did Mary come in?
Mary, remember that bet you made with John like 5 episodes ago?
No, I don't
Oh,
remember any bets. There
maybe,
are some
maybe,
bets even Mary won't take.
maybe you were drinking too much tea or something that night. I'm not.
We do have everything recorded. We can check.
No, has given up gambling for a little bit, right? She needs those kernels.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was so little surprised by was I was surprised how little of the stuff from the previous episode with Jane and Mal kind of was there. It seemed like those two were basically back to the way that they were before. You know, not necessarily like best buds, but like, you know, there didn't seem to be a great deal of tension between them, especially there in that last scene.
D-
Um,
does that have something to do with it airing in a random order? Like, where did this fall?
We're watching it in the order that it was intended.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just a lot of. Are we talking about Watch the way he feels about Mal and Zoe? Sorry,
No, they're
that
talking about
distracted.
Jane. I was gonna
Jane.
Yeah, but just about the fact that just Jane
I
doesn't
think
seem
that's just Mal's way. Because if you think of back to the very first episode, every time he was like, "We're gonna take it," I can remember her name, and they're like, "Didn't she shoot you?" And they're like, "Yeah, once, no big deal.
Patience.
She was in the yeah."
oh
So he's.
right.
I think that's the kind of thing he is. Like once he's put something behind him, he's put something behind.
Yeah, but I was more thinking from Jane's perspective. I was thinking that Jane would have like a little bit of, weirdness around him or something.
Only
Yeah,
weirdness
it's just a
around the
little.
counselor. He had to keep going back to his bunk.
Woohoo!
He did, he did buy the apples and doesn't explain why he's buying the apples.
That's definitely
Um,
his guilt. He's
yeah.
he's sharing. He's using his money for the crew.
And with as far as like for Mal and like how he'd act, I think like I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes. I think he's probably the type who would pretend it didn't happen to avoid having to ever discuss it again.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if he's pretending. He just doesn't feel like he needs to discuss it anymore. Because you know how he always says, aren't we done discussing this, or didn't we finish this?" He's said that before. I think when he's done, and he moves on. He doesn't want to talk to Jane about it or anybody else.
Was I looking away uh with whatever happened to Miska? Because the last I remember was Mal like standing over him being like, "You want to know the real me?"
Yeah, when the henchman winds up putting the chain around Mal's neck and pulls him back, Niska crawls off. You see him
Hmm.
run away.
Got it. Miska is a nasty individual.
Very much so.
I mean, really like a very sadistic, really sadistic individual.
And yet, he is a rat. He runs away the first chance he gets. He's when he's in
Coward.
power, he's
Right. That's usually the way it is. People who like, really lust for that power typically are folks that don't feel that they have it or have had enough of their life where they didn't feel like they had it.
So what did you guys think of the title war stories now? Does it is it a fitting
I'm trying to think where it falls. Is it just basically war stories as in like this just I mean we just basically get that war story from Zoe at the beginning, and then we've got like what kind of looks a little bit like a battle there at the end.
Watch keeps
Um,
referring to war stories. They always come back with war stories. He said
Yeah.
it a couple times.
oh, war stories like whenever they go on their little missions.
Yeah, and he was sick of
Yep.
hearing them. That's why he said that he wanted to go because he doesn't like that. Uh, he feels that Zoe and him are too close.
Got it.
He
How
was
do
and
you feel
now
about?
jealous.
How do
and
you feel
now Wash
about?
has a war story.
Yeah, how do you feel about Mal telling Wash that he never wanted Zoe to marry him?
That's interesting. That's interesting, but not surprising.
I almost think it was a lie just to keep him
I was gonna say,
alive. Maybe.
was it real or was it him trying to egg him on to keep him off, not focusing on the torture?
No,
So
I think that was a reaction. But the thing is that it really wasn't about his character. It was more about he doesn't feel that crew should be interacting that way.
I think he was using it just to keep his mind off of it to get washed through it.
Well, I disagree, Sharon.
How dare you?
I think there was truth. There was truth to it. I'm guessing that he told her that he didn't think it's a good idea.
I agree. I think there's truth in everything he said until they were strung up by Niska. And then the stuff they said when they were strung up with Niska was Mal being the leader and doing whatever he can to make sure his man doesn't crack, doesn't break. And so that stuff, none of it is true. But everything that came before, I believe, is true.
I agree. I concur.
Yeah, that seems to sit about right. I don't think that there's anything. I mean, it doesn't seem odd to me, or have it doesn't make me uh, think any less of Mal's character that he would tell her that. I mean, Mal is very no nonsense. If he thinks that it could that like that them getting married and that like first of all it says something about how Mal feels about marriage compared to just casual or just two people being in love or even just having an affair because what he specifically says that he does what it seems like he's telling Wash that he disapproved of was them getting married and but them getting married would imply that they were together and that it was public information that they were together and so how did Mal feel about that? Did Mal tell them, don't be together? I don't want you guys together. Sounds more like he was saying, I don't want you guys getting married, which, that would suggest that he sees marriage as something like even more like he understands that or feels that marriage is a sort of solemn vow that is greater than just two people who are together dating casually having sex, right? Which just tells us a little bit more about Mal and his code and perhaps his past faith and religion, um, and and if he believes that that solemn vow could potentially risk you know risk his crew, like actually keep people less safe because that vow would get in front of situations in which the two of them would need to be thinking for the crew, not for each other. Then it seems perfectly natural to me that he would say, I don't like that. I don't want you to do that. I want to keep
Mal
you on I want
tells
to keep you
him
on my I want to keep you on my crew, but you do this and you make it really difficult for me to keep you on this crew. I would be inclined to have to leave you guys and find two other people to replace you. I mean,
yeah,
I could even
Mal
see him say
says
that.
that shipboard romances complicate things because it splits loyalties.
Yeah.
So I think in general, he doesn't want them to have relationships. And you can see that there's something that could easily be between him and Inara. And I think the reason why he doesn't do anything for his part, whether she wants to or not, is another story. But it's because it would complicate things.
Right, but I'm saying, what's the difference? They were already in a shipboard, a what was it? Shipbound born
Shipboard
lord.
romance.
Thank you. Shipboard romance. They were already in one. They were already in one, and so what's the difference between them just making it official by getting married?
But he might
It's
have tried to stop it before it, once the two of them even started any kind of notion of having feelings for each
Yeah,
other.
but once they did, the suggestion here is that he even after they already did, he wanted to go that extra step to actually stop them from getting married. That's what it sounded to me, that he was against the marriage. He might have also been against the romance, but once the romance is going,
Yeah.
then there's nothing you can do about it. What's the problem? They want to get married. They want to make it official. Unless he believes that making it official actually makes it even more complicated than it was before. Which I tend to believe that that's what he feels. That he feels like that he may himself have his own, feelings about the sacred bond of marriage being that much more powerful than just board romance.
I get it. I think he's completely against the relationship at all. But I could be wrong. I mean, it's definitely
No, I
a
think
possibility.
I think I no, I agree with you. I think that he is, but I'm just saying once they're already in a relationship, then what like like there's not much you can do at that point. Like you either say you guys are off my ship or you accept it. And if you accept it, you should then accept them if they say, okay, we want to take this romance to the next level, unless you think the next level is even worse than the simple
I got you.
ship romance.
I think I'm a little bit in between both of you. I agree that he is against ship romances, but when it became serious enough for marriage, I think he objected. Not, I'm not sure I'm on the idea that it's sanctity, but I think it's more that he was worried he was going to lose Zoe. That now Wash will usurp his position with Zoe. And I think that it's shown by the fact that, like, when comes and says that he wants to take over Zoe's position, Mal is completely confused because he has a way that he's always dealt with Zoe, and I think he was scared at first that if she gets married, that somehow the husband is going to have say over how his interactions with Zoe are, and that hasn't happened. And now that Wash is doing it, it's like, what are you doing? What's happening? Why am I being ignored here? Why is my position being ignored? And I think that's why he was against the marriage.
I mean, there's no question, like, even, there's no question that, like, marriage does change the nature of your relationship in the eyes of your friends. So that makes sense that just just that additional step would feel like he would be losing his authority over Zoe.
Oh, when you said marriage, all I could think about was marriage.
Marriage
I
is what will bring us here together today.
Me too. It's all I could think
Seriously, it
about
just kept
every
going
time
through
you
my
said the
head.
word.
I I kept waiting for you to go marriage, marriage.
It's really sad how we all are in each other's brains with
Yeah.
these
It's
Absolutely.
What it,
words.
because
John, do
someone brought
not
it up.
you don't
Someone
you
brought it up
dare
in
ask where that's from, John. I
where is
can't even
that from?
believe you're about to
Is
ask
that is
that.
that is that Bugs Bunny?
No.
What?
Princess Bride.
John.
That's from The Princess Bride. Somebody
I
brought up The Princess
oh
Oh,
Bride
that's
earlier.
yes.
And
No,
so,
that's from
right.
Blazing Saddles,
What?
isn't
Oh,
it?
that's right.
No,
That
it's
is from Blazing
Princess
Saddles.
it's
It's
That's
from
from
Bride
both.
Blazing
marriage.
It's
Saddles,
from
that's
both.
Oh no,
that's
I
marriage,
was
that's
thinking Princess
originally
Bride.
from Blazing
marriage.
Saddles.
It's
Okay,
totally
Yeah, I
For
was
well,
thinking
me,
everybody
Princess
was on a
Bride.
different
Lisa,
plane with
for
it.
me, it's from The Princess Bride for me
Yeah, it's from
because
the Princess
I,
Well,
Bride for me
Blazing
too, and I
Saddles was
think
yeah,
it's
way
the
before that.
no. It's
and I
it's
haven't
definitely
watched,
Blazing Saddles. It's
I
it's
haven't watched Blazing Saddles, so for me, it's from
yeah.
The
I've
Princess
never
Bride,
heard of
and
Blazing Saddles. I
it's
don't know what
because
that
Are
is.
you serious? You've never heard
really.
of Blazing Saddles?
Oh my God.
No, I don't
I've
know
heard
what
Blazing
of it.
Blazing
Saddles is
Saddles
I
is.
just haven't.
amazing.
I've heard of it.
Oh
I just
my
haven't seen it. It's just that
gosh.
somebody brought up Princess Bride during the episode, so that got stuck in my head
Hunter.
when people kept saying the word marriage over and over again.
I'm with Chris. So Chris and I share the same brain. Let's.
Yeah, I'm
I
with you three.
also
I'm with
thought
you.
It's
I've
the
seen both, and I
it
immediately thought
that's Madeline Kahn does the marriage thing in that, right?
it. In Blazing Saddles, yes, but
In The Princess
the
Bride, it's
Princess
a
Bride, when Buttercup is marrying Humperdinck.
Humperdinck, and their
It's like the
bishop or
bishop.
whatever he is. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's a
like
bishop.
it's just because somebody mentioned that movie that now every time I hear somebody say that word, I expect them to say it like that. And I'm sorry, Lisa, I haven't seen Blazing Saddles. I've heard of it.
Have
I
you,
just have not watched it.
Mary? Do you know any Mel Brooks?
Not really, no. I know the
Oh,
name, but I
amazing.
don't.
Oh wow.
Krista actually thought it was from Spaceballs, but I don't remember it being in that.
I mean,
But that's
it
also
could
Mel
very
Brooks.
well be a moment in Spaceballs as well, but no. But it's Madeline Kahn's character in Blazing Saddles has the marriage moment.
Ah,
Um, it's a broad comedy. It's a Mel Brooks broad comedy like History of the World and uh, and um, and Spaceballs, but the spoof genre is Western, or it's a spoof on Western.
it's the one that it's one of the ones of his I haven't seen. It's kind of funny
Yeah.
because
So
I've always
then,
meant to watch it. I just haven't
would
watched it.
would you say that the reference in Princess Bride was supposed to be like a reference to the Blazing Saddles?
It's very
Blazing Saddles
possible.
is 1974, and it was definitely a huge comedic hit, like huge comedic hit. And that moment in Blazing Saddles is definitely like an iconic moment for like an iconic film moment. So there's it seems very very likely that the Princess Bride uh, filmmakers were and actors knew what they were doing.
It's very possible, Mary, because I'm
Well,
unless they spelled it in that kind of phonics in the book, it's probably just a spoof off Blazing Saddles.
and
I
it's
have that book. I wonder
Rob
if I can
Reiner.
find it.
Rob Reiner's the one who did it, and Rob Reiner was very his father was very good friends with Mel Brooks. They all worked in the same comedic circles together, so it definitely could have been a tribute to that.
All right, so let's get back on topic because we can watch Blazing Saddles or Princess Bride another time and have this whole conversation. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to totally throw us off topic. It's just every time you said that, John, that's what was going through my head, and I couldn't resist anymore. You guys said that word a lot. I'll tell you, I've never thought about whether or not Mel was against marriage before. I only ever kind of put it to that he wasn't real keen on the onboard romances between people due to the complications as they were talking about. You guys really dove into the
I
was
don't
he
think that
against
he's
marriage or
against
not though?
marriage. I don't think he's against marriage. I think that
Against them being married.
I actually
Yeah.
think that he sees marriage as a very like he has uh um he sees it as a very sacred thing. I mean, and if he was very religious, that would make a lot of sense. That he would feel that it's not the same as just a romance. That marriage, is a bond that comes with like with uh, deals that you make with your spouse as well as with your God, and that is something much different and much much bigger than just two people who have a romance on a ship, which I agree he probably also sees that that's dangerous, but the very idea that this bond would happen that would absolutely put him outside, like just because of how he sees marriage. Um, to him, I think that would be a huge deal. I can definitely see him telling her that he'll have to replace them if they do that.
I've never thought it that much through before.
I don't
It's
know that
interesting.
he'd go that far.
Well, he didn't go that far. I mean, he did.
No, but I don't know that he'd go that far to say,
Oh,
like,
he
I'm
would.
gonna
Oh, he
replace
would.
you.
He would. Absolutely, he would. I mean, whether he would actually go through with it, but he would totally do that. He would totally say that to her. Why wouldn't he?
Because he'd risk her saying, okay, fine, and leaving, and he wouldn't want
Yeah.
her to leave because
Yeah, but
she's
I think
his.
that he probably wouldn't say leave. I think he would probably just say, "Look, if you do this, I'm gonna you're gonna put me in a position to have to find a new crew, and she probably would have said, well, then that's a decision you're gonna have to make because I am doing this. And
Right,
then
but
then
that's
she
why I
probably
don't think he
walked
would
away
say
from
it
him,
to
and then
her.
he thought about it and was like, oh, damn it.
Yeah,
She's
'cause
his right
he
hand
probably
person.
threatened it, and then it didn't happen because Zoe's like, okay, well, you do that, but he trusts her. She's been with him for so long, his second in command. There's no way he's going to replace her. So she was probably like, okay, you do that. Job security.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody who who likes to throw around threats. I mean, he's done that constantly throughout the series.
Oh man, got me thinking. So what did you answer this already? And I totally missed it because I was distracted by weird quotes in my head. What was your favorite part of this episode in general? Like you guys who haven't seen it before, do you like the shootout,
I
the weird conversation while they're being tortured?
well, I just liked all of them coming together. Like I just love all of their relationships, and they're just a little group of misfits, and they just came together to get
To
Mal.
save Mal? Yeah.
And just like, and I loved River's moment. Like that was better than a cartwheel. Her aim.
You mean the not looking? She's not going to look, but she
Don't
still
look!
hits
Don't
them
look!
all.
Don't. And, but yeah, she just knew where to shoot. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was. But we're gonna get a cartwheel. I feel pretty convinced
But
a
where do
cartwheel.
we go from here now with Jane and River? Sorry, with Kaylee and River.
Yeah, Kaylee
Like,
Well,
looks a
with
little afraid of her now.
I was a little unclear by that because it seemed like River saved her, and now like they're kind of playing it off like Kaylee needs to be afraid of her. I didn't totally understand
well,
it.
she saved her, but she saved her by doing something that's odd. Like as
Something
far as Kaylee is
unexpected.
concerned,
Yeah,
she
very
picked up a
unexpected.
gun and killed 3 people
With her eyes
without.
closed.
Yeah, like
Right. I mean,
that's freaky.
it's pretty intense, but she's done a lot of really weird things so far.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but this is by far
she
the weirdest.
yeah, she
Like, it's
looks to see where they are and can't look, can't look, can't look, and nails them all.
I think from Kaylee's point of view, she's done a lot of weird stuff, but she's never been this dangerous. Like her attacking Jane was the most dangerous she ever got. And then now she's actually able to shoot and kill people without looking. And then, as I think it's Regina who just pointed out to me, she goes, "No power in the verse can stop me." Like she's boasting about her power and her ability.
Well, that's a line that Kaylee used when they were running around playing tag. Kaylee says, "No power in the verse can stop me."
When she got her apple back.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I
yeah,
was interpreting. I mean obviously it has a different ring knowing that, that River is
lethal.
Yeah, but like that's exactly it.
clearly
Kaylee
a
was
weapon.
saying it after a game. River is saying it after murdering people.
Yeah, clearly she's a weapon. She was created to be a weapon.
Yeah, well, think about it. Like, so here comes this girl that Kaylee thinks is completely innocent and a little off her rocker, but an innocent girl. She's a teenager, probably still in her late teens, and she knows how to shoot a gun without looking, and then doesn't really show like any emotion about it other than that she feels powerful. I'd be a little afraid of that girl too, because who knows what else she could do. I think it'd scare me.
What I'm wondering is why Kaylee has not informed the others about this.
It was probably a lot to digest, and she's probably trying to just, think about it for a little bit. Like, they just got back from this whole big thing of having to save Mal, so
Hmm.
Also, is it me? But I feel like the way River was looking at her as she was walking by looked menacing to me.
Yeah, I didn't
She
really
did.
understand that.
Yeah, to me, like she was looking down, like I think what it was supposed to be was confusion that, Kaylee is keeping away from River, but I can also see Kaylee looking up at her and feeling like she's threatening her, and so like that looked menacing.
Hmm.
As to why she hasn't said anything, I wonder if she's grappling with how to say. What do you say? What do you tell people? Like there was a gunfight. What do you tell people? Like how?
I think she could bring it up to her brother and ask him about the medication he's been conjuring up for her, kind of I mean, I know he's a doctor, but he's kind of, using his sister and testing things out and this and that. So I wonder if she's waking up and that's why she was able to do the shooting thing really well.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely waking up. I mean, the when she's talking to Simon, there are a few things that she says when she's talking to Simon that sound completely norm. That sounded completely normal in a way that I hadn't really heard them before. I threw up on your bed. Um, she says I was playing with Kaylee this morning. Like, just like things that didn't quite sound so like just totally poetic, weird, abstract nonsense.
But then
So it was almost like she was
in the
kind of
same
going in and
time,
out.
she's talking about how she did normal things because she wanted to, or that because she was being the girl. But then when the sun goes away, goes dark, she is just, what did she say? Fluid and something else. Like she's not a person anymore. It's like when she sleeps, she doesn't feel like a person, but when she's awake, she has to act like a person. Isn't that kind of what she was getting
Right.
at when she was talking to him?
I took
Like
that
she,
as her saying, like, when the medication was working, she felt like a girl and she felt human, but then it starts to wear off, and then that's when she doesn't feel like it anymore. The sun goes
Yeah,
down because the medication isn't.
right.
yeah,
The
like
sun
she
goes
just,
dark and chaos comes again. What am I?
yeah, like she's just a bunch of stuff with apple bits in her. Just the way that was written, it just kind of makes me laugh a little. But yeah, it was just kind of. I always found that kind of interesting that she's. It's like she's disconnecting from herself and reconnecting with herself, depending on what situation she's in or the medications or whatever. So kind of weird. How aware is she of what has happened to her and what she can do versus does she have no idea kind of thing, you know? Like maybe she really knows what she can do or she's fully aware, she just doesn't want to admit what it is, whatever it is. Or she doesn't know how to tell them.
I
And that
don't know if she's processed it all. Like, sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know if she can really figure out if there's anything to tell. I think she's still trying to process what she witnessed in the first.
Yeah, I don't think she is able to communicate, even though I think, well, she was telling Simon she remembers everything and probably some extra things that maybe aren't real when they were on that planet. So I think, like, she just can't. She remembers, but she just can't communicate it.
I mean, if nothing else, we know that they were playing with her brain. So, does she even have her memories is another question, right? Like, we know that Simon found that they've drained her amygdala, but what else did they do when they were in there? Um, are they purposely finding ways to make sure she doesn't remember her time? We don't know. And that actually like just brought me to the idea of the contrast of the author Sun Yu, where book mentions him almost like an awe, like the idea of, are we gonna get to meet? Were they trying to meet her? Were they trying to make her into who she really is? And then Niska uses it as like, with the torture that I put you through, I get to finally unmask you. And it's like the way that it's described, it's the government is just as sadistic as Niska, if that's what they were after.
I like how
Yeah.
Book questions trying to say like who is actually after your sister, and Simon just says, "Oh, the government." He's like, "Yeah, but those are just some men put together that are usually ungoverned. Like, who are they?" And in my mind, I was thinking right away the two men with the blue hands.
Well, wait a second. I actually really, I, that line struck me as well. Is that what he said? Can somebody refresh me on what Book said exactly? Because what I thought he said
About
was
Jinyu.
governments are usually people, are usually made up of people,
Yeah, he said a government is
Usually.
a body of people usually ungoverned.
Yeah.
usually government is a body of people usually ungoverned, meaning that this is not a government. What we're seeing here, like, right? He was I interpreted to mean that what we're seeing here is not necessarily a government. What we're seeing here is something else. What's happening here? What these men who these men work for, or who they represent, or whatever. That this is not, at least by Book's definition, the definition of a government.
Yeah, what
Oh,
he
that's
exactly
not.
said. Simon said, sadistic crack legitimized by florid prose tell me you're not a fan. I'm just wondering if they were the people who did this to River. The government did this to her, Simon said, and he says it's a body of people, usually notably ungoverned.
I was gonna say I took it to mean that a government is too big. It's too big to give all the blame on. That there's
Yeah,
often
that's
people
basically what I was getting
within.
at too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was imagining a secret society that is just being funded by the government.
See, we all have different ones because I was like, well, it's, the government is a body of people ungoverned. Like those people make up the rules as they want, so they could basically do what they want because they're making up the rules of the government.
Right, who's governing them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a body of people sounds like more than just, a bunch of. Usually, when you use the word body, you really are talking about like a nation of people. I rarely ever hear the word body to be referred to as like a small upper echelon of in the know government folks.
Well, when we have our tiers of government here, we have like the body of the Senate, we have the body of the House. So
He,
like it is considered.
That's true. That's true.
With,
he never
That's true.
elected people. He just said people. Like, I guess maybe people who just put themselves at the
Maybe
top.
he thinks the alliance is an ungoverned government, a body of people.
Um,
They're
maybe that was kind of a hint. Like he maybe used to work for the government.
right. So, like, maybe in Book's mind, the alliance is considered the government to a lot of people in the central planets or the core planets. But maybe Book doesn't think of them as a true government because they became government by winning war, not by being chosen. So they're a body of people who aren't really governed. I don't know.
Mm,
Well, I'm
mm.
just
No,
thinking
but
that in a body, in a human body, there's a lot of things that are happening unconsciously that you have no awareness of, and I think that's what's happening in the governments. There's a lot of things that happens behind closed doors that the even the like the people who are in charge in the government may not be aware of, and definitely the public is not aware.
that's good. I like that.
Sounds like we got John thinking. Steph, Shelly, Jen, any of you guys who haven't seen it before? What do you guys think?
I just keep all of this mention of body just has me thinking of that song from the movie Fame. I sing the body
Electric.
electric.
See, I
I
was fighting
love
quoting Adore just then.
me.
I wanted to show off my body. That's all.
I don't know what's going on with me lately. I'm just every I'm just hearing musicals like and songs from musical
Yeah, I'm gonna totally
movies like
have that
everywhere.
in my head for like an hour at least now. Thanks. Fame was amazing if you haven't seen it.
Sing the movie.
Fame,
Oh, okay.
the original from the 70s.
Masterpiece.
Was that from the 70s?
Oh yeah.
I thought it was 80s. Hold on.
Yeah,
If
I
you
thought it
hear
was the 80s.
musicals, maybe
It's too
maybe he's
old for
got
me.
the thing that from like Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
I thought it was like 1980. I could
Fame
be
is
It's
wrong.
80.
80. It's 80
I
on
thought
on
that
the
too,
nose.
Carol.
Yeah.
I almost was going to ask him if he's changing his name to Zoe because of the TV show, but I thought might confuse
Have you
people
Hi,
guys
with it.
watched the
Carol.
Christmas special of that?
Nope.
It's out
It's
already?
not showing
Yes,
in
Yeah.
I
Canada.
watched
Cool.
I watched it last night. It's awesome.
What is?
They've made a
Zoe's
Christmas
playlist.
special for Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist because it got canceled after the last season. But there's, of course, like every other show, there's like an uproar and trying to get another like a streaming device to pick it up. But Roku did had them do a Christmas special movie.
That was such a good show. I think you would really like it, John, if you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I know that a lot of folks really love it.
I'm annoyed it's not showing in Canada. So that's all right. Let's get back to Firefly. What did you guys think about Inara's experience?
Her chosen client, the one she chose. Because we have to remember that these clients apply to these, um, what is she called again? All of a sudden I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, they apply to them and then they choose who they want to meet up with. Like, remember when she was going through the whole list? So she chose the counselor as her client. I always found
And
that kind of interesting.
I'm listening. I really don't I really don't know what to think of that.
she tried to appeal to the counselor when the men were kidnapped, and she comes back and says she can't be involved. So she worked, like, she tried to work her contact, but then when the men were rescued, she was able to get a piece of equipment from the counselor to help with Mal's ear.
Oh,
So it seems like Niska's power supersedes the government's power because this counselor is the government, the local government.
Interesting.
I always
Anybody
thought
have?
that she just didn't get involved because it was, criminals doing criminal things and she didn't want to be involved in that. I never even thought about him being more powerful than she is.
That's always how I saw it, but I guess it could be. And we always get the classic lines of "I'll be in my bunk."
Jane.
and I love the look when she looked at him and he's looking at her like, yeah.
Do those type of jokes do do they play today anymore? I mean, do you see that kind of stuff on TV anymore?
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they're still
have.
around.
And it's not one that I would say has aged all that badly. Like I think people would still chuckle at it today.
People would still chuckle at it. I mean, I watch so much cable. I just feel like I haven't seen that joke being made in certainly over a decade.
And it kind of seemed like they were trying that joke a little bit in the other episode with the wife.
Our Mrs. Reynolds.
Yes, and he's like, "Oh, I knew you kissed her," and he seemed to enjoy that more than just, "Oh, I was right and you were tricked by her too." It seemed to be more than that.
I feel like that's one of those classic jokes that you're like, if you get it, you're just gonna chuckle at it, like, you know.
And it's, you know how Jane thinks, and he's that guy.
Yeah.
So if it wouldn't have been funny for maybe anyone else, but for Jane, it's kind of funny.
Can I point out another little joke? I don't know if it was written on purpose or not, but the second time after the look, when he goes, I'll be in my bunk, Zoe goes, Jane, grab your weapon. And there's a little pause.
Yup, that's not the weapon that you were thinking of, Jane. And the double entendre was definitely um, meant because it's actually in the script thing that I read from. It has like stage direction and little snippets here and there, and that one 100% says that it's a double entendre.
Oh, well, I'm glad that I picked up on it then. But that one's another one that always makes me chuckle when she goes, grab your weapon. I'm like, no.
I laughed really hard over here, Mary. I had to mute myself because that was cracking up. I didn't.
Thank you, Hunter. I thought it was the weird one.
No, I'm like dying.
So yeah, I just remember like I don't know if you guys remember at the beginning I was like I'm not sure that I would call this episode war stories. I get why it's there and I have a reason why I understand why it's called that, but I don't consider what they're going through right now to be a war. So I kind of feel like it's a misnomer to call that because it does. Yes, Wash went through quite an experience, and supposedly one day he'll be able to sit around and tell the story just like Zoe told the story about the grenades, but it wasn't in a war. So I don't like the name.
I
But
think
don't
that's
they
just
sort
kind
of
of a
feel like
general
they're
term,
kind of
though.
fighting a war? Like, don't like I get this sense that like even though the war is over, that folks like Mal are still kind of holding out hope that there would be an insurgency that would allow them to, come back, and that like, if that were to happen, that they could, when they're old, look back at this period and say, we've got some great war stories from that time. Doesn't seem like it's that weird to call this period a time where intense things that happened to them that involved violence and fear for their life. Doesn't seem that weird that they might refer to it as a war story like in the future.
I guess I just kind of thought it was um, just like any story that they come back with. Wash considers some kind of war type story because they always tell stories about their little adventures and whatever, and
Yeah,
not necessarily they don't always have to take place at war. Sometimes people just still kind of call
yeah,
them
it's just
war
an
stories.
it's a figure of speech to sort of call adventures that you have war stories.
I agree, but it's prefaced by a actual war story that Zoe tells, and that's what sets him off. Like he said, like in the argument, he goes, "And you guys have all those war stories," and so like anyway, I've spoken. Any
This
other
episode
thought?
this episode really has me thinking a lot about the political dynamics of the world,
In
of the
what
story universe.
in what way?
Well, yeah, I mean things like that. I like or things like the idea that Miska, somebody like a Miska, because I don't think it's like Miska, I think it's like somebody like a Miska in certain situations would be able to have influence over the government. It's just telling us that like there's a lot of corruption, that even though the alliance is this like perceived strong, you know, ruling with an iron fist, that there's actually that there are cracks in the alliance.
Would you have said the same if for example the train job had happened after now, where we saw that there's a robbery right under their noses and they still pull the troops out without having to figure out what happened to the medicine, because that's where I started doubting the alliance's power. Did you see it back then, or would it have been more effective if that had occurred after this episode?
I just thought the Alliance didn't care about the little town, the
Yeah,
little
I
planet.
didn't really see that the same way. I didn't really see it as like the alliance. I saw it as like the alliance kind of, it doesn't care about the little guy, because it's so much more focused on like, you know, on governing, and in your kind of classic tyrannical way. But, that there's always room for people at various levels in the government to be corrupt or to allow their opinion to kind of influence policy, or influence how policy is um, is enforced. And so I felt like we were more seeing that. But you know this more seems to suggest that like that it's much more, it that it could be much more widespread, and that the government may not be as unified as you're made to believe.
So let's go back to the last episode. If the guy who arrested Jane and the siblings was the government, or was the police at least, who were the guys who came with the Hansel Blue?
Secret society guys.
They're like the CIA. So the guy who
Yeah.
arrested them would be maybe like the FBI, and then they're like the CIA or
So
the Black
would
Ops.
that support this fragmentation thing, that like branches of government are working against each other?
Yes.
Well, you know, if you think about it, this came out when? This came out in 2004, right?
2002.
2002. Oh
Yeah,
my
too.
goodness. Well, 2002, that was like the heart of the discussion around um, how little the CIA and how much the CIA and the FBI were
Working against each other.
were deliberately working against each other, deliberately holding information from one another because of their own power plays within the government at the expense of the security of the nation. That was like big topic of conversation back in 2002.
Yes. So it's so like because they are both part of the government, but they are independent of each other, and they're supposed to work together, but they don't more often than they do back in that time,
Yeah,
right? That's what. So
exactly right.
so like, and the CIA tends to think they're more important than the FBI, and the FBI thinks they're more important than the CIA.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's
Therein
like
lies the problem.
so it's like they have like, and to me the two by two hands and blue guys are more like CIA to me, because the CIA is a little bit has a little bit more of an unknown aspect to them than the FBI does, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And so it's like, and the FBI are the ones who tend to go out and crack down on the organized
Well,
crime and other
well, I
types
mean,
of
like
things.
FBI are FBI are law enforcement, and
Right.
CIA are spies.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and so CIA's like it makes complete sense if they are the kind of CIA of this world. It makes complete sense that she would be get becoming like groomed to become one of them, which is, by the way, a pretty like uh, common trope in like espionage fiction, right? Where you have like this person. I mean, like good example is the uh shoot the character that Scarlett Johansson plays in
Black Widow.
yeah, Black Widow is totally that trope. You know, the trope that like somebody extraordinary is, you know, at birth taken by an agency and groomed to become this like or Hannah, you know, this television show that was once
Ooh,
a
that's a
movie.
good show.
Hannah is that exact same trope, you know. Um, you know, and there were a lot of them back in the 80s with like, you know, the whole Cold War, right? Where it like, you know, uh, uh, a Russian child is groomed by the state to become like an amazing expert American and then plopped in America and
There was a whole show called The Americans on that.
oh, there you go. The Americans is that same trope too, right? So it seemed it seems pretty, I mean, at this point all I need are some cartwheels and I feel like I got River like 100% because I'm convinced that that's what that is. I'm convinced that she was taken and she is that thing, that trope of we're creating a weapon, we're creating a new agent, we're creating like the best of us.
Yeah, so Mary, basically what I think John might be going with this kind of agreement. I agree. I think that that guy who arrested Jane, he was like the law enforcement guy of the alliance who comes in, and he's doing something based on some orders, and he doesn't know all the information. He just knows the basic orders and what's going to do it. He doesn't know why. He just knows he's supposed to do that. And then those two guys come in, they know why, and they want to acquire their asset, and they're just going to take that person away from that other guy. They don't care the consequences because they feel they're more important. That's what I think was happening in that episode, if that's what you were trying to ask. Did that make sense?
It did
Maybe
to
that
me.
didn't make sense. Yeah, so but that's how I see those characters. I don't know how much you know about the US government, but that's kind of how I see those characters relating to the government that Joss Whedon would be modeling it after if he was doing that, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, now that you're saying that this was in 2002, I mean, it just makes so much sense that like he would, you know, that he might be playing with this idea of two government agencies that like just don't work together and don't even like each other.
Yeah, because he likes his pop culture kind of stuff and things like that, but in his sci-fi western, he can't really relate them the same way. So maybe that was his way of doing it. I don't know if you want to call that kind of stuff pop culture, but you know, You know what I mean. He translated it in a different way, basically, is what I think. Did I kill it? Kill the chat?
No, no, I'm thinking through what you're saying. Yeah, interesting. Ironically, I know more about American government than I do Canadian government because I spent most of my high school years in the States. So, but
Yeah, it's sometimes it's just hard to know sometimes what people. There's plenty of people in the United States that don't know much about their own government because it depends on what their schools taught them, how much they absorbed, and things like that. But it's um it's definitely complicated.
I think I think I would be interested. I'm trying to be a first time watcher brain here. I think I'd be interested in knowing a lot more about how this government is run. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
because yeah, and that the independents were so gung ho. I can understand that obviously people are devoted to their cause, but to be what 7 years later and to have people like Mal who are still so gung ho about how it would have been better to be independent and purposely living his life to try and avoid that government, it makes me curious as to how does
Yeah,
that government run?
yeah. What is the alliance, and really, what are they doing that the brown coats are just, or Mal and them are just not into?
What about if it's just as simple as the the current the current basic debate, which is big government against small government? I mean, it seems to me like the alliance represents big government, represents big unified government, and that the independents are a little bit more about small governments, states' rights, I guess you could say. We don't want to have to, follow all of these centralized rules. We want rules that relate to our own personal worlds, right? Like each world has its own culture, has its own belief system, and it seems to me like the independence would be all about like let each world govern itself, and that the alliance would be about no, all worlds have to, we're all one thing. We have to work together. We have to follow the same rules, all of that kind of stuff. And it's the same debate.
Oh,
Are
I
they saying we have to
completely
follow the
agree, and I
rules, or are they
completely
just
see.
Sorry,
dictating?
what?
I was gonna say, are they asking people to follow, or are they just dictating? I don't know. Sorry, Mary.
I was gonna say I completely agree, and to fall on your point, any law once it becomes law is now dictating, right? Like if you don't agree with the law, you're gonna see it as them dictating to you, right?
I don't mean
Yeah.
that
Um,
kind of. I don't mean that kind of dictating, though. I mean more like, I don't know. I mean
Well,
some.
I mean, it's not like the alliance had empty ships. I mean, those ships were filled with people. The alliance can't just be, it's not like the alliance is just this group of tyrannical upper echelon people. That there's no question that this feels like a war of two differing perspectives, and that there are probably a lot of people in the verse that are totally for a unified verse where all of the planets are sort of following one legal system, and have one centralized authority over all of them. I wouldn't assume that the alliance is just made up of just villains. I mean, they're the villains of this story, so of course they're going to be presented, in this story as sort of empire type, type characters, because we're seeing through the eyes of the independents. But if you step back from it and just look at it as like what's probably happening unbiased, we're not looking through any of their eyes. you have two sides with two totally different perspectives on how the verse should be governed, and I'm guessing both sides had a lot of people on them that agreed with them. Um, it seems like the Alliance had the better technology, which is usually there's usually one of the two sides, in wars like this, end up having better technology. The side that doesn't have as great a technology um, resorts to improvisation, guerrilla warfare, a variety of other war tactics that can attempt to get some advantage over the side with the superior technology. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and it seems like it didn't work here for them. But I sense there's a lot of planets in this verse, and if I had to guess, there's a lot of folks who are quietly independent. But remember, in the one of the first episodes, there's that big bar fight. That bar was filled with Alliance folks that didn't like independence.
That's because he chose that bar for
Yeah.
that reason,
But
according
I,
to
I think
Zoe.
the point is it's a bar on like an off planet that you would have expected to be amongst the ones fighting for the independence, and yet they were alliance friendly. So yeah, no, it's true.
Um,
I can see that divide. Like I can see it being a core issue of the different types of government or the different types of rule. I just I would want to know, like, and I say this, and in my back of my mind, I'm like, but you hated it in the Star Wars. I'd like to know how it is run. Like when we talk about the big government, the alliance, are there representatives from the planets who are involved? Are there how do these laws, how do, like, when we talk about we want small government, planet only run, is it because the planets aren't heard anywhere in the government? Like I would want to know more about that.
yeah,
And
I
like
mean,
I said, in the
definitely.
back of my mind, the movies that I absolutely hated in Star Wars are the movies that explained how the Empire came to be. So,
You
Yeah, I mean,
hated Star Wars?
but the Empire is the Empire is truly an empire. It has an emperor. I mean, it's really modeled after the Roman Empire. Whereas the Alliance, I'm not completely convinced that that's the structure. Um, we've been given more of a sense that it's got a hierarchy, um, and yeah, I mean, it's presented kind of as a nefarious tyrannical government, but my sense is that it has a senate, and that it has representatives of different planets, and all of that. And by the way, you know just because there would be you know folks on that planet that were fighting for the Alliance doesn't mean that there aren't folks on that very same planet, quiet folks living away from that area, that believe in the independence. There could have been two sides in on every planet. Uh, but it really it bums me out that the show got canceled, because the more I think about it, the more I feel like Joss was prepared to explore these themes, and I think that they need to be explored right now more than ever. That period of time, you know, the early to the late aughts could have used a story like this, and us, like, sort of understanding two different sides in a universe, like a civil war, a divided universe, divided by ideology and cultures and stuff. I think it would have been a really great really great story to explore in the science fiction genre, which does so well at exploring things that are really hard to explore when we just do it with modern fiction, because it's very easy for people to sort of side with their own personal perspective, which either will turn you off if the show is siding with the opposite perspective of yours, or it will end up, being a sort of just a validation vehicle that your politics is the right politics. But science fiction is such a great vehicle for exploring things in a way that people can come to it a little less bias.
I agree. I agree. And I think the fact that it's found such a base after means that there was a hunger to explore so much more. I think the base
Oh
could
yeah,
have the fandom
it's
could
so
have been
clear.
so much bigger.
It's so clear that he had so much more to explore, not just character development. And there's lots of amazing character development, but it seems like he really wanted to explore politics. But
I think so.
Anyone else have any final thoughts? I'm sorry I have to run soon. I
yeah,
apologize. But it's been a long few nights.
Well, it is.
I I don't have anything else to add. I'll just say that it's so weird to think that, like, that's it. That's all we're going to be getting is another 5 nights of this, or another 4 nights of this, another 5 installments of this.
I have a thought about River. When they said that she went to the academy, it'd be kind of crazy if she knew that the process of them trying to turn her maybe into one of them. What if she said, "Yeah, sign me up," and she agreed to all of it, but it just kind of went wonky or something? What if they have video of her maybe saying like, "Yeah, this is what I want to do," and who knows how voluntary it was? Like maybe she wanted it.
Yeah, I'm the way Simon says is she wanted it. She begged her parents to let her go.
Maybe they thought, hey, we will turn you into a superhuman or whatever they tried to sell her on. And she said, yeah, sign me up. And they said, okay, let's get you to say that on video just in case. And who knows what we'll see when it comes to light.
Yeah, absolutely. Good thought.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I mean that would further reinforce my theory that the alliance is not the empire. That the alliance is not like this, you know, completely two-dimensional styrofoam bad guy, with a dude in black robes sitting on a throne, that shoots lightning bolts out of his fingers. That Joss was going for something a little bit more nuanced here, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Right, but
Um,
she did send Simon's secret message saying they're hurting us, get me out of here kind of thing. So even if she did sign up for it, she didn't get what she thought she was signing up for if that was the case.
yeah, yeah, sure, and I'm not suggesting that there aren't plenty of nasty things that happen in any kind of government. Um, Whoever is in charge, there are people. I mean, government is made up of a lot of people, a lot of people, a lot of agencies, a lot of folks who believe that they're in charge, and because of it, there is absolutely room for horrible things to happen, I'm sure that this agency did some horrible things to them.
I forgot that Simon got that note and it said they're hurting us. At first, I thought, okay, well, she's like schizophrenic or something. Maybe she's just using herself as we, maybe. But now that I've heard River talk more, I haven't heard her do that, say we, and meaning just herself. So I wonder, are there others? Are there other potential gifted, talented people in some facility like River was, and she maybe remembers them or something?
Yeah, I mean, what if we meet a couple of like folks who are essentially like a river, like some I mean, I could imagine us like at some point like rivers up against a a river type person who went through the full course and didn't get saved and is this like weapon, and River has to defend herself against somebody who is as good at her as her, which if that happened, likely what we would learn is that River is just that much better than everybody, and and is able to get out of that situation. But my guess is that we'll probably by the end of the movie meet somebody else that was part of that program that did not get saved and therefore is whatever they were trying to make River into.
That's cool that she would face them. It's a cool thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that what the really the coolest part about that is two sets of backflips and cartwheels.
I
Wow, I can't wait
that
for you to get your cartwheels and black backflips and all the sort of dance that you're hoping for, John.
um, well, thank you so much, Mary. This was really nice. Great conversation.
Thank you, everybody.
Love loving the show, and we're back tomorrow for our season finale of Drag Race. Then Saturday morning we have the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is a finale as well. That takes us into next week, where we will be only focusing on one show. We'll have
Fireflying it
Firefly on
up.
Monday, Firefly on Monday, Firefly on Thursday, Firefly on Friday, and Firefly on Saturday night. So I hope everyone will join us. If you are doing our Secret Santa holiday hiatus, just a reminder, please get your mementos, your Secret Santa mementos, designed, not crafted, designed and ready to be crafted. Reach out to me via DM so I can go in, waive that craft fee, and craft it for you.
We can put it on
And
Discord, though. You have a channel on Discord for that, too, right? The
yeah,
reaching out to craft.
the reaching out to craft. I don't actually have that. I should probably create one.
Don't you have Secret Santa channel where we say we're done and you just go in
Yeah,
and...
yeah. But this is more of a plea of like, hey, if you need help, please just reach out to me. I can help you. I'm already helping a couple of folks who are a bit intimidated by the process. But I just want to make sure that by next week we have most of our folks finished with their mementos.
Thanks for joining,
All right, everyone.
everybody.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you,
We'll
everyone, for
see you
coming.
soon.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
John.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
hosting,
everyone.
Mary.
Thank
Night,
you. Thank
everyone.
you for my
Have a good
co-host,
night. Thanks,
Chris.
Mary.
And good night, everybody. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to leave. I don't know, of course, if you would like to keep the room going, but I do have to leave too.
We
I'm off.
we can close the room because everybody
Okay.
pretty much said didn't say they had more to say, so we'll go with that.
Sounds
All right.
good. Thank.
Bye.
Bye,
Have a
everyone.
good night, everyone. See you all tomorrow for the things we have tomorrow, and we'll see you next week for more Firefly.
Good night.
Bye.